We invest in their ideas and encourage their leadership to positively affect the economic, political, and social status of women and girls across Florida. The Professional Development Committee hosts our PowHErful series of workshops each year. We are a committee of volunteers who build our leadership skills by organizing programs by and for women and girls across Florida. Events like this evening bring women together for fun, educational activities that foster networking and professional advancement. The Women Foundation is supported by generous donors. However, this evening we do invite you to click on our website if you wish to donate, and it's www.womensfoundation.org to donate. So let's get into our speaker for this evening. She's a powerhouse. Michelle Y. Talbert, hold on one second. Michelle Y. Talbert is a recovering attorney and relationship marketer who uses digital and social media to provide tools and resources such as podcasts, videos, live events, and written publications to empower women in business. She has written for major publications and is a sought-after presenter and speaker on topics related to relationship marketing and networking in business. She is a tribe builder and has been featured in Forbes, The Washington Post, and other major forums. After attending community college part-time for 10 years, and while working as a secretary and a divorced single mom, she transferred to Cornell University and then on to University of Pennsylvania, and then she got a business certificate from Wharton. Michelle left full-time practice of law in 2012 to explore all things blog, podcast, and media related. In January 2020, she opened the doors of a beautiful place, Her Power Space, a women-forward, welcoming boutique, co-working space, business event venue, and a podcast studio near Fort Lauderdale. Also, in the spring of 2020, in response to the pandemic that affected small businesses, Michelle launched the No Small Business Left Behind Virtual Summit, which was a series of events that allowed small businesses to get information, resources, and forge connections and others to ensure the survival of their businesses. The summit expanded and 150 businesses were launched within that time. Michelle is also the host of a podcast called Co-working While Black. Her motto is #WeAllWin. So let's welcome the beautiful and the talented Miss Michelle Y. Talbert to our event.
Thank you so much, Mahala. I'm excited to be here. Thank you to all of you ladies of the Women's Foundation of Florida, and especially the Professional Development Committee for inviting me to be here. I am going to share my screen and we're gonna dive right in. I know that some folks are here from down south. We have folks from up north. Please let us know if you haven't already where you're coming in from. I am actually here in Lauderhill, Florida, which makes me super happy. And we're gonna network tonight. Are we ready to network? And also, I don't know if, Michelle, if you're available to just sort of read out the chat if I ask questions, if that's possible, and I'll do my best to also kind of look at the chat, but while I'm sharing, it gets a little wonky. So I see Boca, West Boca, Boynton Beach. I'm from New
Will
York,
do.
so we say Boynton Beach, Broward County. Hey, Jackie. Wahoo! Yeah, that's a heck of an intro, right? Okay. All right, so let's get started. Who's ready? Let's shake it out. Okay. So, we're on present. The slides. It's so funny how you can do everything ahead of time and still have like wonky stuff happen. Okay, so want to start with how many of you have heard of the radio station WIIFM? Do we know what that is? What's in it for me? Okay, so I broadcast on that station directly to you. And one of the ways that I kind of keep myself accountable is by giving you guys this free worksheet, and you can go to it right now and download it and type right into it, print it out and write on it. If you go to herpowermoves.com, WIIFM worksheet, what's in it for me? This is a worksheet that I created back in like 2017 because I found myself, we think we're on lots of Zooms and Zoom fatigue is so real, right? But as I was getting my education and doing more in terms of marketing and learning, I was online a lot and going on to Facebook Lives and Facebook events. And it felt like, why am I here? Has anybody ever been? Let's hope tonight's not going to be that, right? Because you're going to have your worksheet. But have you ever been on a workshop or a webinar and like a few minutes in, you're like, oh, this is not what I expected at all. And so in 2017, I created the What's in It for Me worksheet for myself. And now I hand it out to every single workshop participant at my events. And what it does is it holds me accountable, presenters accountable, because you put in the topic, but it also holds you accountable because you have to tell yourself, why am I taking this time to be here? Back when outside was open, right? We were actually using gas to go places. We were spending money to attend events. Some online events still have a cost attached to them, but all events have the cost of our time attached to them. And so it's super important. Use this anytime you wish for any future events. It's a downloadable PD. You don't have to put your email address in or anything. And the few things that I do want to go over with you to help you get the most bang for your buck is, what's the title of the program? How much time are we going to be together, which is 45 minutes? And what, if any, benefit is promised by the presenter, right? What makes you sign up for something, and then once you get there, are they sticking to the reason that you came? And your intention of your own potential, and guaranteeing yourself that you will promise to implement at least one thing that you hear within 24 hours. Okay? Can we do that together? All right. What's in it for me? What's in it for you? Intention. Why are we here? Depending on the audience, I tend to joke, and hopefully you guys can rock with this one. If you do a drinking game tonight, intention is the word that when the presenter says intention, you will probably be blitzed by the end of our time together, okay? Intention is so important. It's on the What's in It for Me workshop. I'd love to know, what does success look like for you for this workshop? Even though you didn't have the benefit of the worksheet before tonight, what made you come? What made you come to this networking event? What kinds of connections? What are you trying to walk away with? And I would love if you can put that in the chat, because I am going to look back and I want to make sure that I touch upon your reason for being here. So I make 3 promises to you. They are on the screen. I'm not going to read them verbatim. You're going to have success tips for building your connections. We're going to talk a lot about intention setting. And then strategies and techniques to expand your trifecta tribe. So are you ready? Drop it in the chat. You ready? You ready? Mahala, is your hand up to say something? You're on mute. Mahala, is your hand up to say something? It's raised on my end. You like to learn how to make, Okay, so Katie, and hopefully I pronounced that properly. If not, please correct me. Katie said she'd like to learn how to make virtual networking more comfortable. Interesting, you prefer in person over online. I can get that. Diane said, I've not been out and about for many months, interested in learning. What is different with follow-up, etc., when we network virtually? Katie, yes, awesome. Okay, great. Well, what's really funny is that before lockdown, before COVID, I used to teach the first or second or so iteration of my networking, which I call unnetworking ethos, under the title Sparkle Online, Hustle Offline. And what that meant was that I've always believed that we need to be adept at whether we're on virtual or whether we're on terra firma and can actually shake hands in person, touch elbows going forward from now on, right? And so it is super important to have both skills. So I think it was Diane who said you prefer in person. I'm right there with you, but we're gonna do both because they've always both been important. And I think some of us lean toward our strengths. It's natural that we do that, right? Okay. Not sure what's going on with the clicker. Am I frozen for anybody? Because my slides are freezing. Okay. What is a trifecta tribe? And I want us to have that clear verbiage from the beginning. And that is the 3 top relationships in your business or your corporate life that at any given moment, you are focused on a mutually beneficial, ethical exchange. And it can be a relationship with an individual or a relationship group. Okay, and so let me take a step back just to give a little bit more understanding. A trifecta tribe is those 3 top relationships that you are nurturing in an ethical and mutually beneficial way that can be a one-on-one relationship or a relationship with a relationship group. And we're definitely gonna delve more into that later as we speak. But to just let you know, an example would be, for me right now, I'm interacting with my mentor specifically for sales. Like I brought him on as my mentor for sales. I also have an accountability buddy, right? Self-explanatory. She checks me and keeps me in line. But I also have a relationship with a relationship group. And those are the folks who recommend me to speak on platforms like tonight, who recommend people to come to her power space, and who recommend me for consulting. So that's my trifecta tribe right now. My mentor for sales, my accountability buddy, and my relationship group of folks who refer folks my way. Are any of you working with like a mentor, or do you have already now that you get that definition, a trifecta tribe that you have going on? Drop it in the chat, feel free. So you heard my story. Thank you, Mahala, for the introduction. I did go straight into the workforce after graduating from high school. That is my 10-year-old son at the time, drying my tears after the 3 of us walked across the stage to get my degree from Cornell University. And then I went straight up to law school. That's them within the last couple of years. And I have a grandson who's 7 as well. So I went into practice in corporate law in DC, and we had taken this time out. I moved my kids. We were living in DC. I moved them from DC to Ithaca, right? So we could go to school, and then to Philly for law school, and back down to DC when they were basically starting high school. And I started corporate practice, and I was like, I'm not sure this was the thing for me, right? After 16 years of education, to come to that revelation can be a little bit jarring. But of course, I stayed practicing like most of us do. We have any like side hustlers in the house? Raise your hand if you're working a day job 9 to 5 while you're working your daydream, 5 to midnight, sometimes 2 a.m. I see you, sis, definitely. So I co-authored a book about online dating after 40 with a guy who I met online after we broke up. It's not complicated at all. It's called Don't Do What We Did. right? And we started traveling and speaking. We spoke at something called the Divorce Expo in near Detroit, Michigan. Who even knew that was a conference, right? But it was 2011. I had self-published a book. I was still working full time. And the question was, how do we market this thing? And one of my colleagues was a little younger than me at the time. And she said, you know, Twitter is really cool. You should really leverage Twitter. And I had been on Twitter maybe a year or two or something like that. So I hit Twitter hard. I started talking about the book, talking about the value, talking about safety and all of those precautions that people need to think about dating with kids after divorce online. And Ebony Magazine, an editor from Ebony, the Ebony on my grandmother's coffee table, my mother's coffee table, and my coffee table, asked could they feature us. I was sold. I was like, social media is the thing. I am a social media maven. And from that time to this, so it's actually been exactly, 10 years now, right? From that time to this, I have leveraged social media in a way that I think adds a lot of value to my life. And now I'm teaching it to other people as well. So because of that moment in time of leveraging Twitter and then being willing to go onto Instagram and Facebook and being out and about in the community gave me loads of opportunities to both speak, partner with corporate sponsors. Most recently, I did a networking event back when, right before the shutdown in March of last year for the Women's Council of the Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce. And the thing that I am the most proud of outside of my kids is being invited to President Obama's White House to be a social media maven for his almost and last State of the Union. So I moved down here to South Florida in 2020. And as Mahala mentioned, I opened Her Power Space, a co-working space where people come together and have meetings. And on March 31st, needless to say, we locked the doors. I don't know how your 2020 looked, but yeah, this pretty much sums up mine. So I'm gonna play a little snippet of video of 2020. From January 12th, when we ripped the bow and the paper off of the doors, we had over 100 people come through the space on the day of the grand opening. And going forward, we were basically sold out heading into April. And March 31st, I officially closed the doors. There were people during the pandemic, especially in early April, who would reach out to me and say, Michelle, what's your Cash App? Let me just sow a seed. I know that this isn't an easy time for you. Similarly, there were people who made it possible for me to get out of bed. When the pandemic first hit, I was in the fetal position in my bed, like, what have I done? What am I going to do? And I would always say the pandemic is global, but it feels personal. And I think for each of us, we were impacted in different ways, right? And so for me to be able to say, how can I serve our community? And for our community to say, we can't let Michelle fail, it was like we fed off of each other and really made it possible for all of us to kind of continue to rise. And so that was our story, right? So we went into the rest of 2020, I went up to be with my kids. I don't know why I'm having this problem with my of 2020 from January. But the bottom line is that when you're building community, all that matters is trust. All that matters is trust. Everything else is backburnered until we have trust in our relationships, which are built one person at a time. So Seth Godin is a really famous marketer, and he just really brass tacks. Trust, trust, trust. Earn trust, then you can worry about the rest, right? And because of that trust, because of building that community, because of, as I was saying to Diane and Katie, that I started online, came into a brick and mortar, and have always believed in the power of navigating both spaces, we pivoted back. And we pivoted back in a way that poured into the small business community, launching the No Small Business Left Behind, touching over 150 different businesses, fireside chats, telling people, teaching people how to crowdfund their own PPP, right? The government ran out of money because other businesses were too big to fail. And we lost over 440,000 Black-owned businesses between February and April of 2020. We were too small to be left behind, and the community showed up. Okay, so how many of you have heard of this African proverb? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Has anyone ever heard this before? You can take yourself off mute too. I love questions. I love conversation. I love interactivity. And yes, I do love making sure that Jackie does what she's supposed to do. And yes, I'm one of her accountability partners. I saw the chat.
I love that quote.
Yes. Okay, who is that who's saying I love that quote?
Michelle.
Michelle, why do you love this quote?
Because I actually am in an industry where if I was to do it alone, it would take forever to do it. But with a team, we get there together and we get there faster, and just a community doing it together.
Listen to what you just said. You said you get there faster as a community. This says you go farther as a community. You get there fast by yourself.
Oh, wow.
See, a lot of times people don't see what it really says. What this says is if I'm running by myself, I can sprint. But if there's a group of us, it might slow me down, but we can lean on each other and get farther. And I disagree with this. I disagree with this proverb. And here's why. It gives us a false choice. It tells us we can either go fast or we can either go far. And I posit that we can go farther, faster with our tribe.
Amen.
Right?
I believe it.
When you have the right people that you're going with. There's a book by a guy named Shane Snow, and I read it like every couple of years. And it's called Smart Cuts. And it's like the cheat codes. How do you navigate the cheat codes so we get to our destination faster? And as Jim Rohn said, success leaves clues. Why should I struggle with sales when I have a mentor in his 60s, built a $75 million company, lost it all, and then is rebuilding to 25 million, right? Why wouldn't I lean on him to help me zhuzh up my sales? He's already done it and he's willing to be in my tribe. So do you see why that gives that false sense of I can either go fast or I can go far, but I can't do both? And I say, we sure can. Okay, so how do you define success? Now, I asked you what success would be in your workshop today. Now I want to know, how do you, yes, Mahala, I love Jim Rohn too. How do you define success in your business or your job? Or both, because I know like Mahala's a side hustler, right? We've been there. We do that. How many of you actually are entrepreneurs? And how many of you, one, if you're an entrepreneur, two, if you have a corporate job?
Corporate job.
I'd love to know who I'm speaking with. Okay, corporate. And then we have side hustlers in the building. This I know both exactly. Okay, cool. So thinking it through, just drop it in the chat. What are some relationships that you need to create to achieve your next level of success? And so the first piece is like, what does success look like for you in your business? What's that next level of success? And again, we come back to intention. Did anybody start the drinking game? Retire from corporate, now I'm an entrepreneur, Michelle Fletcher. 2, I guess, but I'm executive director of a nonprofit. Understood. That's very entrepreneurial when you're the ED especially, right? Because you have to be responsible for raising money, talking to customers, bringing people in, having them buy into your message, right? Okay, so I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, if you're open to turning your cameras on. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. If you are open to turning your cameras on, and if not, no worries, no pressure at all. I'm going to ask you to do one simple thing for me, whether you're seated or standing. Please raise your hands above your head as high as you can.
Oh.
Thank you. And now raise them higher. Why did everybody go higher when you were already raising your hands as high as you could?
You can.
What was that about? I saw you all
Because
move.
you're reaching.
Why?
We're reaching,
I said,
we're
raise
reaching
your hand
higher.
as high as you can. And then I said, go higher. You all went higher. Why do we think that happened?
We're reaching for the skies.
No, but why is it that we didn't go as high the first time when we were going as high as we said we could? What happened?
We were following your direction.
Which was reach as high as you
That's
can.
true.
And then what happened? I said, reach higher, and everybody did. What tends to happen is we tend to hold something back, don't
Yes.
we? Yeah?
Oh.
We tend to hold something back.
Yeah.
You thought that was as far as you could go, Sophia? I said go as high as you could go, not as high as I could go, as high as you could go, right? And everybody without fail still had more in them to go. And I recently did this with some 7th to 12th graders. And one of the things that they pointed out to me, which I'd never heard as a reason for not giving it your all the first go round, aside from one saying, we're lazy. Another one said, you know, I felt like I could go higher because you were there to cheer me on. You were there smiling, saying, now go higher. So I thought I could. And so I just really want to point that out because it's extremely common for us to hold a little bit back. Okay, I'm going to share again. Any thoughts on that while I'm sharing screen? Okay. So I was hoping that the clicker would work. Has your journey to success looked like this so far? Just kind of smooth sailing? Or is it more like mine, right? You end up in the bushes. Most of us kind of just end up places. When I was working full-time as an admin, I just wanted a door. I did not want to sit outside of anybody else's office. I wanted my own office, right? So I went to college, I went to law school. You can still have bad bosses even if you have a door, right? So then I'm like, okay, I'll be an entrepreneur. I'll be my own boss. The real reality is we need the intention set and we need a map for that so that we can map out exactly how we build our trifecta tribe. So this is the point at which we are going to have our trifecta tribe framework that we're going to work through, that you can see there that I've identified just a smattering of relationships that you can create. We're going to focus on the mentor, mentees, and peers. And let's go. So you should be able to see my whiteboard. Let me know if you can see it. And I promise there will be a very legible screenshot moment, but I like to walk you through it so you can see it. So can everyone see it, the whiteboard? I'm going to assume you would tell me if you can't. So we can keep going. Okay, so this is us in the middle, happy, right? Because we're building our trifecta tribe. Is it hard for you to see or are you able to see?
We can see.
Okay, great. So we have mentors, mentees, peers, right? And we're happy in the middle. That's the 3 relationships that I'm going to focus on in this instance, right? And so the 3 steps and stages that we want to walk through are, of course, I'm going to say our intention, our identity, and then implementation. Remember I said even within 24 hours, the goal is that you implement at least one thing that you learned today. Nothing matters without implementation. So within intention, we're going to brain dump and define your desires. What does success look like? What do you want to achieve? What is it that you want to accomplish? Just write it all down. Do not censor yourself in your business, in your corporate life. And then you're going to prune your options. So don't edit yourself at the first step. Just dream, right? And then begin to prune your options. What are the 2 to 3 that rise up to the level of, I think this is really what I want to do next. And then pick one, which we're going to say is pick your ask, okay? And then we're going to come over here to identity. And within identity, we're going to identify our value. So in the context of someone who is a real estate agent looking for a more senior real estate agent, their value is, I'm a junior real estate agent, but I have a big network. I would love to connect with you. Identify your value. What is it that you have, right? And then find your folks. Identify where your folks hang out, whether that's social media platforms, industry events, online, etc. And then part the C's, which is set yourself apart with your unique value proposition. So in this instance up here, we've identified what we need. Here, we've identified what we have to offer. Because remember, it's about mutual beneficial relationship building. And then with regard to implementation, now it's time to do the work. We've self-assessed. Now let's put it into play. And we're going to meet people where they are, which means we've identified where they are. Now we're actually going to go there. We're going to set up that social media platform. We are going to see where they are and be where they are. Go to those events, right? And then we're going to get noticed. And the way to get noticed is literally introduce yourself. And I'm going to come back to that point about introducing yourself virtually. Introducing yourself virtually is a great way to connect with someone. Some of the things that you can say are things like, what's going on with you right now that's exciting. If you're on LinkedIn, I see your bio, I see that you, and then give specifics. I would love to learn more about that. Are you open to a virtual coffee? Are you open to a virtual chat? Make it about them. Get noticed. And then finally, ask. So what that means is between getting noticed and the ask, you're giving value, you're posting, you're sharing articles, you're learning about that person and what their needs may be. And then it's totally fine to ask. And what I always tell my students is that 9 times out of 10, by then your ask is your answer. And what I mean is that you've given so much value that they ask you, how can I help you? How can I serve you? If you know Gary Vaynerchuk had the book, Jab, 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 right hook, give, 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 then ask to get. So in our framework, I'm going to pull it up on the screen so that it makes life a lot easier for you. So within our framework, what we're looking at is 2 self-assessment steps and then an implementation. And you can apply this framework no matter what the relationship is. It can be applied. You walk through your self-assessments of what you need. You walk through your self-assessment of what you have, and then you put it into play by connecting and implementing. I talked really fast, so do you have any questions so far? Aside from Michelle, you know what, that was a lot. Girl, what you talking about? Can I just say hi to people? I got a lot going on in my life. She's talking about implementation and needs assessments. What is going on here? But the reality is, how high do you raise? Do you hold something back? Are you willing to go forward?
I love it. Said, wait a minute. I love how you said that you find your tribe and then let them know who you are.
Exactly.
I like, or what you do, or what you have to offer, or what your value is. I like that.
But it's not in a salesy way.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's an exchange of value. Now, here's another worksheet moment. When I do this training, what comes up the most is that people say, but Michelle, I don't know how to identify my unique value proposition. And so if you go to herpowermoves.com/superpower, there's another free downloadable PDF there that you can fill in. These 4 questions, think of a personal accomplishment, a business accomplishment, flip side, a hurdle, a challenge. Good Lord, coming out of 2020, I think we can probably all answer some personal and professional hurdle questions, right? That we've overcome. We are still standing. And that begins to help you do the thing that we women don't do too frequently. Atta girl. We love up on each other, but it's very rare, right?
Yeah.
Do you have an Atta girl file? That file of people saying, you know what, girl, you rock. Right? I really appreciate you the way you did X. That is so important. And let this worksheet be a reminder to you that you've been through some stuff, the fire, and you've made it through 100% of your worst days. 100%. Okay? And at the end of that, we look at what character trait is our superpower. Mine is relationships. So yeah, I started off writing a book about dating, and now I'm talking about business. But what they have in common is healthy, mutually, hopefully beneficial relationships. Okay, so I said a lot. We have a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to walk through a case study, if that's okay with you. But before we go through the case study, I want to ask if there are any questions. Just take yourself off mute. Please feel free. Okay, so I see none. So is it okay if I go through this case study? And we pray the clicker works. Okay, so this is a case study with the unnetworking framework. I see something in the chat. Okay, thank you. Okay, so in 2013, remember, I don't know how many of you have heard of Black Enterprise Magazine and the Women of Power Summit and the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurs Conferences. The Black Enterprise brand has been around for probably 40 years or so, right? And I decided, because remember I left corporate, I'm gonna do all things blog related, social media, because I'm a maven now. Ebony done told me I'm a maven, right? So in 2013, I decided that I will not only attend a Women of Power conference, but I'm going to become a Black Enterprise contributor. In 2013, I made that decision. I am really sorry about this forwarding issue. So that's me with my glass of Moscato and my Black Enterprise back in 2013 with some chips in the house by myself, okay? And in 2013, I actually had some friends who said, hey, I have the email address for the senior vice president who also handles editorial. You can email him, let him know I'm the one who gave you the address. I'll even do an intro, but I can't guarantee that he'll reply. Okay, and that was 2013. So I was like, okay. And I found that person also online. And by 2014, after nurturing a relationship, being online, what is it? It's 2021. He still hasn't replied to that email, okay? But I got to go to the 2014 Women of Power Conference because my unique value proposition. Now remember, bloggers were everywhere, but my unique value proposition was that I was willing to pay my own way from DC to Boca Raton if they gave me the ticket and the access. So I paid my way, I paid my hotel. All they had to do was give me access to the event. And they were like, okay, that's easy, right? But I knew that I had a bigger plan in mind. So there I am at the Women of Power, the first time I went to the Women of Power conference. And just as a side note, one of the guys in that picture, we've stayed in touch, and he's now an Emmy-nominated TV writer. So the relationships you make for the investments that you make are long-term as well as short-term, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So then I paid for my way to go and my hotel and my plane ticket. 2014, when the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurship Conference came around, they did full expenses, all expenses paid, and asked me to come. Now, one thing I want to be clear about is they were asking me to do social media and gave me the keys to the kingdom, to be on the team, to tweet as if I was Black Enterprise, to do Facebook posts as if I was Black Enterprise, and also as myself. And understand that I have never had more than 5,000 connections, followers, whatever you call them, across the platform. So it is not about size. It is about value and relationships. And next to me, on my left, as I'm facing, on my right in the picture, the guy who still hasn't replied to my email, right? But that's Alfred Edmond, the Senior Vice President of Black Enterprise, who was responsible for greenlighting all of my opportunities. And then in 2000, and I love sharing this picture of TD Jakes from that conference, because remember, I'm supposed to be a social media maven, and my phone was taking the crappiest pictures, and they still let me come back. Right? So it's about the relationships and the value. People were engaging. Jackie's in here. Jackie was probably commenting on my post from that conference back in 2014 and 15, right? And then in 2015, I was asked to be their DC contributor to attend political events. And when I moved down here to South Florida, they said, Michelle, will you cover South Florida events? Bottom line, I became a Black Enterprise author and contributor. The intention was set. I'm going to Women of Power, and I'm going to be a Black Enterprise contributor. But in addition, Alfred asked me, Michelle, will you help me put together a cadre of writers? So I was able to bring 10 of my friends who were smart and dedicated and would love the access of having a Black Enterprise byline. Relationships, one person at a time. And the fortune is in the follow-up, not the cookie, right? Bonuses, Alfred became one of my biggest mentors. He still drives me crazy to this day. And Caroline Clark, the host of Women of Power Summit and the television show, was the inaugural guest of my Her Power Hustle podcast, and we're still connected as well. Build relationships, add value, set your intention. What do I need? What do I have? Introverts, bonus, whether you are online or off. If you are in person, by setting your intention, what does success look like for me for this event? What's in it for me? My worksheet is filled out before I get in my car and go to this event. If you set your intention for what success looks like for you, guess what? You get to leave as soon as you achieve it. You're an introvert. Don't stay. Don't go sit in the car. Don't go sit in the bathroom and have a billion people walk in and go, you okay? It's the worst thing you can do to an introvert, right? Go home. You were successful. And if you determine that you weren't able to do the thing you came to do, see what value you can get. As soon as you feel uncomfortable, leave. Because there's nothing worse than talking with someone who's uncomfortable, that makes you uncomfortable and makes you feel like something's off about them, and all they are is introverted, right? Be confident, set your intention, confidence, and then bounce, okay? Online, same thing. The confidence comes from knowing why you're interacting, knowing what you've overcome, the strength in knowing what you're capable of, and knowing that you've survived 100% of your worst days so far. That's how introverts are able to do this. That's how all of us are able to do this. So quick, think outside the box. Please consider diversity. I am not diverse to Michelle necessarily. We're both kind of Caribbean heritage, New York, Black women, live in Lauderhill, worked in corporate. We have a lot of similarities and I adore her, but my Filipino 60-something built a $75 million business, helps me with sales. His perspective, like the conversations we had today during our monthly mentor meeting here in the space, are not conversations that anyone else would challenge me with. So do not shy away from people who have a different perspective, look different, look at the world differently. They add so much richness and value. Singularity. It is okay to have a connection for a single purpose. He is my connection for sales. He's my mentor for sales. I adore him. We do talk about other things with regard to business, but if we don't talk about sales, we have failed in our meeting. Okay. And finally, You may have heard the term people come into your life for reasons and seasons. It's okay. Give yourself grace. This is not sleazy because we have had an ethical, mutually beneficial exchange of value. And if I'm the one who's doing all the giving and that person's doing all the taking, that's a reason to leave, right? And they may be in your life for just a period of time, a season. So for me, I'm back to my 3 promises. I think we're close on time and I've gone a little over, apologies. So those are our 3 promises. Hopefully I've made them and you've achieved your trifecta tribe level. I would love to stay in touch. I'm happy to answer questions, but I do want to be respectful of your time. Thank you. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and that's my calendar link. If you'd like to hop on, I always have time for a call. Get screenshot. Picture. Someone said I have a question.
That's Diane.
Hi, Diane.
Do you think that your having been an attorney had an impact on opening certain doors for you for what you wanted? Or like, does education play a role in that?
Yeah, but don't forget that I was 30 years old when I walked across the stage to get my bachelor's degree. And actually, to be quite frank, the partners in one of the departments didn't want to hire me because I didn't fit the mold of what the typical first-year law graduate would look like. Do you see hurdles, things you've overcome, things that have actually been an accomplishment, and sometimes they're the exact same answer? Right? So yes, absolutely. There have been benefits, but there have also been, because of how I did it, it didn't fit the mold. It was too diverse. Does that answer your question, Diane?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, please feel free. I'm going to stop sharing. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime. And Michelle, Adora, Melissa, Mahala, the whole PDC committee. Well, PDC is committee, right? All Professional Development Committee. Thank you so much for all of your time and attention and being here.
You're welcome. Thank you again. Thank you so much for our amazing speaker, Michelle Talbert. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us. And thank you everyone else out there for joining us tonight. We hope to see you guys again. We encourage you all to visit www.womensfoundationfl.org to learn more information about our other programs. Please keep an eye out on our social media for details about our May workshop on mental well-being in the workplace. Thank you all and have a good night.